Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Soulkation Podcast. I have the beautiful Whitley Porter here with me today. She is a life coach, a serial entrepreneur. She's the founder of Whitley Porter Productions. Over the years, she's hosted events with radio and news stations like 99.1, Fox News, and she's even hosted international celebrity spoken word artists, social media influencers, nominated producers, casting directors, and Hollywood influencers from networks like OWN, WEtv, and BET. Whitley, welcome to the Soulkation Podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you allowing me to be here. I am so excited, and you look gorgeous, by the way.
Okay? Oh, thank you. You do too.
We got the purple on, we matching.
I know. All vibes. All vibes, honey. We already knew this was going to happen.
Right. Exactly.
So tell the audience how you got started. Are you a full-time entrepreneur or you got the corporate thing going on and you're a full-time entrepreneur?
You know, I wish that I was a full-time entrepreneur, but I do work at a company. Right. I was like, there was this ideation of I'm going to just do it full-time and I'm going to grind and I'm going to make all this money. And, that's eventually going to happen. But in the meantime, in between time, I do work at a tech company, which gives me amazing freedom. So for example, being able to interview with you today, just getting up and leaving work early to do what I got to do. So that's a blessing, right? And so sometimes I think being able to work at companies and kind of find your way and establish yourself even more as an entrepreneur, as a business person, I think that's important. So I'm here in the meantime while still doing the life coaching and doing my production company. And kind of to answer your question about how I got started. So ever since I was a little girl, entertainment and arts has been my thing. I was an only child, so I sang to myself. I had a talk show at 8. I'd set up my stuffed animals, no lie. I had my girl talk, and I was taught, the thing from Home Alone where you could record things. I would record my talk show, and I would feel so good about it. So when I was really trying to step forward after college, everybody's blown up my head. I was doing events and they were like, you're the next Oprah, you're the next Oprah. So I thought it was as simple as, you just kind of do what Oprah did. You start your own production company and you start your own talk show, and then somebody sees you on YouTube, and then all of a sudden, boom, you make it. And so I did all those steps, and everything was trash because it was my first time and nothing happened. So I was waiting and I was waiting. And then I had this little stint where I did the movies where you kind of bust into Sony Pictures and you're trying to knock on the producer's door and they're call security on you. So I did that, and then I moved to Atlanta to find Tyler Perry, and I didn't find him or his studio. And then I moved back to California. So I did pretty much every extreme thing that you could do to get attention from Hollywood or whatever. And then I realized Hollywood's not coming to me. Hollywood, it's just not, that's not what's happening. So I have to make it happen for myself. And so that's when I really started to, do my shows, and I just stayed consistent with videos and, vlogging and doing everything. And then eventually things started to pick up speed, but it was really about consistency. And so that's kind of the start. And that's how we got to where we are today.
I love it. So for the people that think they're going to leave corporate America tonight and leave the government tonight and everything's going to line up for them, what is the one thing you would say to them besides being
right, besides being consistent? I would also say that, and this is coming from someone who is a dreamer all day. I sit and I do dream and I daydream, but you also have to be realistic. And there's a sense of practicality that you have to take, because we're all gifted and talented. We were created that way, right? All of us have these amazing gifts. But the reality is, because there is such an oversaturation, especially for people to just step out and do this whole entrepreneurship thing, it's not as risky. It's not as impressive, I guess, anymore, to just kind of step out and leave your job and do it. No one's just going to hand you over something because they're wow, you had guts. Now it's kind of yeah, and so do the other 30 people. So if you're really going to make a step towards, just starting your business, starting your company, and you really want to do that confidently, my biggest piece of advice would be realistically look at your market. Be a business person, be a business woman, man, be a boss, and say, what are the numbers? Who is my target audience? what realistically will this look like? Do I need an investor? Do I need to sit down and actually do that before you just take a leap of faith? I'm not saying don't leave your jobs. I'm not saying don't do that, but do it with like at least a foot on the ground saying, okay, can I pay my bills and handle my responsibilities?
Amen. Because and I love Steve Harvey, and he slept in his car 3 years. I'm not sleeping in my car. Like, it's some stuff you got to look at your life and be like, I don't know if I can do that. You know what I'm saying? But you can't look at what they have and not look at what they had to do to get there also.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree.
So everybody calls you the vision board queen. Why do you think vision boards are so important?
I think vision boards really just help you to manifest what's on the inside. When I think of a vision board, the power is not in the board. And, I'll say that to you all the time. Like, it's not like this board is so magical and all of a sudden everything is going to come true. But what it really is just a constant, it's a daily reminder. Some people like affirmations, and so they say them verbally. And some people need to actually look at something and to say, wow, like, and have a prototype of what do I want my life to look like, to feel like. And so when you have a vision board and you can look at it on a consistent basis and say, this is kind of like what life I am really trying to strive towards. And they say that sometimes scientifically, by actually putting together a vision board or writing things out, it's almost the same type of pressure or in your mind, the same type of action as doing it. And that's why sometimes they'll say, like, write things down, appointments down, things that you dream of multiple times, because you're telling your brain to begin to change the way that you psychologically think about things. Like, even, just, I guess, the way that you scientifically are created, it helps you to see it and say, oh, wow, I want $1 million. So I'm going to start to do things and apply to jobs and connect with people to get towards that million versus just kind of letting it float in the air.
Right. Definitely. So, like, let's say somebody's vision or goal has been the longest to get into the news industry, to get on the radio shows, even to produce a movie. What does that process even look like? Those are different channels, but
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so many different angles that you can go these days. A lot of people have way more access than you did back in, the early 2000s, even, where it was like, no, if you want to get in the industry, you have to go through a production company. You have to be connected to a bigger, more established company before anyone will know your name. That's not the case these days. That's why social media is such a beautiful thing. Some people call it a curse, but it is beautiful because it allows for people like an executive at a company to just type in a hashtag and to be like, oh, wow, the first hashtag I see is, Logan. And I see that, she has a podcast and wow, I'm really interested, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the kind of access that you have. So I would say definitely utilizing social media to put your projects out there. Utilizing these different social streaming platforms, I think that is key. But I also think that you also need to really think about what it is that your ultimate goal is. And if your ultimate goal is really to be taken seriously by a company, I would suggest connecting with people who have kind of done projects before, really interning, really seeing what it takes to put on a good production. Because I think the misconception about the entertainment industry is that it's not an industry. It's still a business. People still want to see quality. Now, initially, great content is absolutely amazing, but now there's so much access, whether it's an iPhone or these little GoPro cameras. There's too much access to, having clarity on your screen or stepping into the industry. So if anyone wants to go on like the production route, I say connect. If you've never, been on a set before, anything like that, connect with the bigger company, intern. If you want to put your projects out there, have the right team and get connected to people that have good equipment so that you can have not only great content and a good look. If you want to go in and actually work for an entertainment industry company, same thing. I would say intern if you're, looking for opportunities, because that's kind of the best route initially. It's really about networking and connections. If not, go to networking events, connect with people that you see that are doing what you're doing, slide up in those DMs and reach out and ask people like, hey, appropriately. But these days, people will look at their Instagram, messages faster than they look at their email. So really paying attention to who it is that you want to be connected to, what it is that you want to do, but also keeping in the back of your head that there's like probably a million other people that want to do the same thing. So really making sure that you stand out. And that's why I say your social media needs to be like on point, so that if someone does redirect, they don't want to see a private account. They want to see you. They want to see what you got going on. And I would say just connect with the right people and apply.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy. Like I'll have somebody's personal email, won't look at it. I'll DM them and boom. It's crazy. It's crazy. And to me, Instagram is like the new text message. It's sad because people hit you on Instagram faster than they will on the phone.
That's what I'm saying. You will find, met up with two like high level executives for some projects that I'm doing, and they will say, what's your Instagram looking like? Like that was one of their first things. They didn't say, I want to see your website. They weren't interested. They said, I want to see your Instagram, because Instagram doesn't like it. You can even if you were to buy followers, you can't buy engagement, right? And you can tell, even if you try to buy engagement, you can tell if it's like a robot that's replying versus if it's someone who's like, you inspire me, or I love your content, or, whether it's a friend, a family. So it will tell on you. Like it will tell on you as far as your numbers. It will tell on you as far as followers, because people like what they like. And so you really want to make sure that if you are going into this industry, that whatever it is, whether you're in front of the camera or behind, that you're just really establishing a strong audience, and that you understand that that is so significant. It's probably more important than anything is making sure that you have a community behind you that really believes and backs what you're doing.
That's so true. I love it. So how have you been able to establish genuine relationships? Because some people are like, I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to jump in DMs. Like some people aren't outgoing, So what would you say to those people? Like, I want to get involved. I want to build a great network of people, but how?
Well, this is the reality is that sometimes it is intimidating because, like you said, that whether it be personality or whether it just be the fact that this industry is really hard to gauge, how you kind of step out without looking thirsty, without looking hungry, without looking, needy. But I think that the best way to do it is to just be yourself. And I think there's no magic formula that can make you likable to someone except by you being genuinely who you are. And if you are supposed to have that connection, then it will work out, because you'll show up and you'll be the best version of you, and you'll come, looking your best and being refreshed and using your own words and speaking in a way that is eloquent to what it is that means something to you for your project. And people will either connect with it or they won't. And if they don't connect with it, doesn't mean that they're a bad person or they're fake. People go off. They'd be like, oh my gosh, she's a producer, doesn't like my stuff. They're just, no. There's other producers. So that producer just may not be. That's why really there's, for every company, a target audience, and they have people specifically designated to do specific things for that audience, because everything, even in this industry, is strategic. So when you show up, know who you're talking to and do your research on who to connect with, because sometimes I will see, oh, wow, I have something in common with this person. They may work at the same company and I may really want to get to the CEO, but initially I probably need to get connected to the person that's over diversity and inclusion, because most of my projects have to do with diversity. So I love women. So anything that has to do with women, if I know someone has a passion like that, I'm going to go to them, connect with them, and then they'll connect me to someone else. So organically finding who it is that you think would be interested in what you have going on, and that you'd also be interested in them, because the conversations should be two-way street. Networking is not just, let me tell you about what I got going on and please put me on. But networking is really saying, I really want to connect with you, and I really want you to connect with me, and I want to see how we can service each other.
Definitely. It's funny because I interviewed Jeanette R. Smith, and she's interviewed Oprah, she's interviewed Ayanla, Tony Robbins, and her interview was like 2 hours ago. And, I asked her, how was it meeting Oprah? How was it meeting Ayanla? I was like, those are my aunties. And she was like, first you have to remember that they're just people. I was like, oof.
Yeah.
I know that, but just to hear that again, it's the truth. At the end of the day, everybody wants something great for other people. They want, genuine relationships. They don't want phony people around them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you walk in with the intention of, I'm here to serve, I'm really here to give you something too. I'm not here just to take. I have questions, but I'm not here just to get stuff from you. They feel that. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to be that person. So I agree with everything you just said.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And awesome. I can't wait to see that interview that you did. But yeah, I think that that's so important, is that they are people, and that when stepping into arenas that, again, are romanticizing the idea of, a Beyonce and Oprah, like these really important people, not really being people and being these celebrity idols, it kind of can take away from the fun of the conversation that you could have with someone, because you're missing that opportunity to really ask them, like, tell me about your project. Tell me about like, it's just, you really have to go in understanding your why. And that's probably what I've noticed even with me, is like, am I doing this because I really just love the idea of this, or do I really love this? And that's why process is so important, because it weeds out those that are really just doing it for the attention, and those that are really doing it for the love.
Amen. That's so true. Okay, Whitley Porter, you better give us a word.
I mean, I feel like I'm low-key preaching, and I feel so bad. I'm like, why am I talking so much? But
we need a word. It's your interview, so you definitely should be. It's a word. It's a word.
It's so weird to be on the other side. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't even know what to do with myself. I'm like, wow, I'm being interviewed. I'm not interviewing someone. So it's really cool, and I'm so honored. Like, this is really fun. I'm like, oh, I want to do more of these.
I was like, she has a beautiful presence, beautiful personality, and we didn't even get to talk that long. But the way my friend spoke about you, I was like, I got to interview her. I got to. Like, yeah. And sometimes we forget how much stuff we know that other people have no idea about, and they need help with. It can be the simplest things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a production company, girl. A production company. How do you get that? Like, most people don't even know how to even start with Dave. How did you start a production company? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so, and you probably experienced this, where some things that are your love don't even seem like work, or you don't even realize that you're just kind of starting. So I was getting so obsessed with the idea of the big, grandiose, like Whitley Porter Productions in 10 years. So I didn't realize, like, oh, it's as simple as just getting a business license and, getting an EIN number. Like, those small things that you're like, but it's a production company, so, it has to be this and that. And it's like, no. It's still going to be a business. Like, you're still going to get taxed. Like, you still have to run things through. So I would say first step is really, and I was just at a panel. So first off, with the production company, it's just like any other business, except that you are giving a different service than maybe a restaurant or something like that. So just understanding how you really want your business model to go. And that's kind of what I had to think was, what kind of productions am I going to be doing? Who do I want to cater to? And I really wanted to start it, one, because I wanted to own the rights to my own show. And two, I really wanted to start it because I was that person that always needed someone to film me. And I hated the idea of not being able to find someone who was a camera person. I couldn't find a videographer, couldn't find a, editor. Like, I had to make my own videos. So when I really started it, I said, okay, my business model will also be that I will be inexpensive to those who are up and coming, right? Because it's really, really hard sometimes to get quality for, an inexpensive rate. And so I really wanted to create that. So when I made my business model, I began to talk to friends. Then I talked to my friend who's a lawyer, and she's like, hey, you need to go through the website. I think, well, for me, we live in California, obviously, but you go on, I'm calling it Covered California, not that, the state website. And then you basically just file for your business name, make sure that you get your fictitious business name. And then after that, you file for, whether you're going to be an LLC, sole proprietor, things like that. And so that's kind of the steps that I took just to make sure that legally in the books I was doing what I need to do, on top of saying, oh, I have this business model, I have this idea. And this was before there was a logo and before there was all that kind of stuff. I just knew I want to create this company so that I can have my show underneath it, so that when Oprah Winfrey comes to me, I'm like, oh, but I already have my production company, so I'll produce this, I'll have the rights to this, you can have a license to use to stream it on your channel. You know, so that was really all I was thinking about, was like, when I meet Oprah, I have to be ready. And that was kind of how I made the company. So it was that, but that's the legal part that people don't tell you. Like, so it wasn't as simple. It's not hard, but it does take work. You need to be organized and have money to pay for your business permit and stuff like that. So
yeah, so true. Not go out to eat every week. Save that extra check.
Girl, save that check. Don't you spend all that money.
Girl, been there, got the t-shirt. So let's switch gears.
Since I love that. Okay.
Since you plan events, what have been like your takeaways? Like, girl, if you're gonna plan an event, you need to do these 2 or 3 things. What are those things?
Okay, so with event planning, the first thing is that I always like to do is I go by my venue first. So I make sure that my venue is locked in, because once your venue is locked in with the date, with the time, everything, you can kind of just, it's almost like that's your foundation. Yeah. You know that when you have the venue, you'll be able to get certain type of decorations. You'll know what kind of tables will look good because you'll have the space. So like, that's my first thing. My second thing is that I make sure that like the details are taken care of. And I love to sit and I like to do a walkthrough of like, what do I want people to feel? Like, how do I want people to experience this event? So that it kind of changes with every event. It's like, you know, should there be music initially? Like I planned a gala before. So it was like, how do we want the experience? I'm so sorry that all of these sounds, I can't turn them off. It's like, honestly, because when I do the audio from my computer, so then now my computer's going off. I apologize. But anyways, so the details of just what do you want people to experience? So make a list. Like literally, you can call it an agenda of the night. You can call it whatever, and you just literally make a list of what you want people to experience. Because once you do that, then you can go and fill in the holes and then figure out like, oh, you know, like when I did my brunch with Whitley, I really wanted people to have like this feeling of royalty. So I knew, I was like, okay, I want them to experience that. Like, what does that royalty look like? And so as I made that list, I was like, oh, I should order gold silverware that I got on Amazon for like super cheap. You know what I mean? So you start to like kind of fill in the blanks there. And then I would say, you need to make a budget. Sometimes people think that they need to have all this money to plan certain events, but they don't actually budget well. I've learned from planning events the hard way that sometimes my vision will be bigger than my budget, when I could have simply been real with myself and said, this is the budget. You need to sell this many tickets, or you need to, if I'm not selling tickets, you need to stay within this. And so you have to find all of these items that you want for the flow of your event within this budget. And it's kind of a good discipline to have, because it keeps you accountable and it helps you to not lose all your money. Like, it's just a really good way to live. So that would be my advice, because I know sometimes people will dip in, and especially with business, you'll start going into your personal and like, you know, dibble dabbling, and then you'll be broke and then angry with people because, you know, they went out to eat and you couldn't because you spent that extra $50 that you didn't need to spend, you know, because for most of the time, people will be impressed if you really take time to like give them a great experience, because they'll feel it. Like, you know, you ever been to an event and you just felt it? Like you felt that love, you felt it. And you're like, even though it wasn't the fanciest, I still feel, you know what I mean? Like this is just such a great, well put together event. So I'm like, if you get the foundation, you get the venue, you make them feel like from top to bottom, like you put your thought into it, all the other things will like fall into place.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's always the non-fanciest events I go to that I grow the most from, unintentionally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
So you coach.
I hope I'm not rambling. I feel like I'm rambling. Rambling.
No, these are all nuggets. people are going to take away what they need for that season of their life. So you're doing perfect. So you're a coach too. How has it been coaching, and what have you learned about yourself while coaching?
Coaching has been great. It's been interesting to be a life coach. I used to call myself a purpose coach, and nobody knew what that was or cared. So when I did it, like, I just didn't garner any response. So I had to adjust myself, and I was like, so I don't want to be called a life coach or this or that. And then I just changed to life coach, and all of a sudden clients came in. So it's been great, and it's been work too, because it's not just something that people just sign up for. Just like with therapy, there sometimes is a stigma there. So you really have to like put in the work. And then also I would say that what I've learned, to answer the other part of your question from it, is that I don't ever tell someone to do something that I'm not willing to do. Sometimes I'll realize, wow, that's homework that you need to give yourself. Sometimes I'll realize, wow, Whitley, you're holding someone accountable to a standard that you haven't been living by. And so I really, I'll have those moments, and I'll really check myself. And I don't like those feelings. So I really try my hardest to make sure that when I am life coaching, every single day I set myself up, or I try to set myself up for success, to be the kind of person that if I died, I would want you to come to my funeral. And when you hear people speak of me, like, everyone can say, you know what, even if I met her once, or I met her 80 times, or that was my best friend, my wife, my mom, whatever, everyone is on one accord saying this is the type of person Whitley is. And I take it that serious with life coaching. And so I say, I want to make sure that if my clients were to see me out in public, look at my social media or whatever, they would say, she's not telling me to do something that she doesn't seem like she practices. And so that's kind of the answer that I have for your question.
I love that. Okay, let's do some rapid soul questions.
Okay.
And it's the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay.
Okay.
Name one person you think is really funny.
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. What's the last song you listened to?
Snack by Miss Banks.
Hilarious. What is
my new theme song?
What is one product that you must use every single day?
I use tea tree oil.
Oh, nice. On your hair?
On my skin.
Oh.
No, actually on my skin. Yeah. I use tea tree oil. It keeps it like really moisturized. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you could go to dinner with anyone besides Oprah, who would it be?
Denzel Washington.
Nice. Why Denzel?
I really love him as an actor. And I think that he's one of those people that I really feel like is not just a great actor, but I've like watched videos on him and studied him, and he's so inspirational, and just he seems so centered, and it's almost like he has an answer for everything. And I literally feel like I would just go to dinner and not order anything and just be sitting there taking notes, because he's managed to successfully master like being him. Like, you can tell he brings himself into every role. Like, there's a piece of him authentically. Yeah. And I think that that's pretty easy.
That is dope. Yeah. So also tell us about your movie. Like, how can we support you? What is going on with it? Tell us about the whole thing.
Okay. So Making of a King documentary has been a project that has been on my heart. I've been working on it for a couple months with some amazing men. They are all kings. Shout out to them. They're like brothers to me. And they really inspired me to want to do this project, because I think that there's such an emphasis when we see documentaries or projects on men that have either passed or in jail or have experienced some sort of negative thing that we see happen, unfortunately, to our Black men in culture and society. And I said, well, what about the men that are like just doing it, like that are successful, that are educated, that are doing well? Like, why don't we highlight them? Like, why don't we spread more Black excellence within society and culture? And so I think it's been really important to see even their faces light up when I've done, just this snippet. And so this is just a screening. This is just to see if people like it, child. Because I'm not about to spend all this money on, with my production company to be out there. And it's like, wait a minute, nobody cares. So just the response for the screening and the short little snippet that we're going to show, when I say short, it's not really that short. It's like 45 minutes. But to see how people are like, wow, like off of the teasers and just the small, I'm like, okay, well, I feel like this is going to go well. The content I know, and they're so candid and they're so real. It was like the most beautiful experience to see all of these Black men get together, and they were wearing their suits and they're just talking about life and what they need from queens and what it really takes for them to really be the men that they are. And I think sometimes we assume when we see a successful Black man, or we see a Black man in general, we're just like, well, you should be that. And it's like, wow, we have no idea, unless you really are a Black man, what it really feels like to live every day, to walk outside, to not know if, police officers are going to treat you with respect today, how it is for them on their job, how it is the pressure of being a Black man who's married. There's all of these different things that, don't really consider. But I'm hoping that this film will change the narrative of not only Black men for people outside of the Black culture, but also within, to really be more supportive of one another, and especially for queens, to really say, you know what, my strength and my love and my push will really empower kings to be the best version of themselves. So it is going to be screening in Los Angeles at a private theater. I was so graciously, excited to find out that this organization wants to really sponsor. And so they sponsored and allowed us to have the screening at their private theater. And so that's on June 29th. The people are excited. So I'm going to have to split the screening into 2 different times because it's getting a little filled. So if you want to see Making of a King, tickets are free. You can go on Eventbrite and just type in Making of a King documentary. And I can send you the information too if you want to share that out. And that's pretty much it.
Definitely will share the link, share your website, share every link that you send me. I will definitely post it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to send it to you then.
Yay, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you, Whitley, so much for coming on the Soulkation Podcast.
Thank you for having me. You're amazing. You did a great job with your interview. I'm tough secretly. Secretly, I'm tough. I'm like, what's this going to be like? On the other side. No, I'm just kidding. But you're great. Your soul and spirit is amazing. And thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, guys. Make sure you share this episode with your best friend. Make sure you leave a comment. Let Whitley and I know what you thought about the episode and the show. And I'll see you again on the next episode of the Soulkation Podcast. Have a good one.